Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of CX APAC Live 2020, our third annual event. I'm Seth Adler on behalf of IQPC Digital, as well as being the host of the CX Network podcast. I hope you enjoyed all the sessions yesterday. If you missed any and would like to watch again, you can find the on-demand links in the attached agenda within the resources box. Next up, we have Philippe Mercier, Vice President of Analytics at APAC at NICE, on applying AI to modernize your business analytics and improve CX. Philippe has been kind enough to bring us a special guest, Sutipan from Vantage, who will join us later. But without further ado, I'll hand it over directly to Philippe.
Thank you, Seth. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. So today, we're going to be talking about how AI can make a big impact on your analytics and improve your CX. Let me start with a fact. You've seen the study many times. This one is from Gartner. It's still amazing to see how companies believe that they are delivering a very high customer service, while at the same time, the customer has a very different opinion. And this is very troubling because it reflects the fact that companies have a very hard time being able to really assess what the customer feels, what the customer are saying. So I guess this is what we're going to be talking about today. When you think about the challenges those companies are facing, it is a fact that companies today are, I would say, increasing the number of channels. Voice has been historically a very strong one, but digital is ramping up. We usually assess that digital right now is accounting for 30% of the interaction. And that could be, when I say digital, it would include chat, email, but also survey. And for those companies to understand what is being said or to be able to identify insights throughout this channel, it's a big challenge. Many of them are usually relying on few of them, like their CRM application, maybe a survey, maybe some output from their QM process. A lot of them are still not tapping into all those unstructured data because it's hard. But the fact is that for the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, we've made a lot of improvements on what we call the natural language processing, the NLP, to a point where right now, analytics and solutions like speech analytics can make a big difference. Here we're talking about Nexidia, which is the premium solution in the market. And when you think about it, the challenge is really about understanding what customers are saying and what kind of insights we can get from those interactions. Usually the way the company wants to go about that is to first understand what channel the customer are using, this concept of a journey. They want to understand whether they went through the IVR or the voice, and maybe it's a combination of those. The next step is usually to understand, okay, what kind of are the reasons why my customers are reaching out to me? What are the main topics? What are the main categories? From there, it's usually a step to understand what is being said. What are the keywords that could start being reflecting some potential insights? And on top of that, it's very important that throughout those interactions, they understand what is the sentiment, what is the behavior, because this is usually driving a lot of, good indication that, a customer could be in a mood to do something positive or something negative. Throughout this process, you are combining two kind of behavior. Some are kind of descriptive, so sometimes you have to just pick up some items and either do that, kind of a categorization process or pick up some words. Some are more interpretive. You have to apply this kind of human reasoning to basically draw a conclusion. This is very true for sentiment, for instance, but also could be true for deciding whether a customer is coming in to put a complaint or showing a behavior that is likely to lead to churn. So this is where AI comes into play. Solutions like Nexidia have been dealing with interaction for years and years, to a point where right now we have built some algorithms, and those algorithms will help you typically address those interpretive assessments. And today we're going to be illustrating two of them, sentiment and categorization. The beauty of the solution is that when you go through the discovery process, understand the root cause why the customer are calling you, you can get into some predictive modeling and also lead to some specific dashboard that leads to some specific action, whether it's better coaching for the agent or whether it's to trigger, I don't know, a promotion or specific interaction. And this is also as many insights that can feed some downstream application, whether it's a data lake because you have a big data science team that is building a lot of predictive models, or whether it's campaign management engine, or as I said, sometimes it could be about better improving your coaching to your agents and employees. So, as I said, I'd like to focus on we're going to focus on two examples, and the first one I'm going to be covering is sentiment. So when you think about sentiment, this is, as I said, a very interpretive process. You're trying to pick up some early, I would say, marker to basically assess whether the customer interaction is positive, negative, or neutral. And you're going to be doing that using a different set of actions. There will be a combination of words, but also tone, what we call crosstalk, kind of non-speaking time. There is all kind of things that usually help create a model. So let's think about how we can apply that and illustrate how you can use this as a driving factor to improve your performance and your CX experience. So think about that. Imagine that, this is a kind of dashboard that you can end up with. The idea is that you are able to assess every single interaction with a score. Of course, sentiment is the global score, but what is interesting is to understand maybe at a more granular level what is driving the sentiment. We know that there are different things that help create a good positive sentiment, like active listening, the fact that you acknowledge loyalty or demonstrate ownership or build rapport. And those specific metrics can be also assessed using the same kind of algorithm. And the fact that you can apply that to 100% of your interaction, applying a model which is not including any bias, will make a big difference. So the process usually is when you start applying those kind of metric and this kind of sentiment and behavior scoring, you're going to be able to start identifying very quickly the poor interactions that deserve some focus, either to create and generate specific actions toward the customer, but also toward your employees. And indeed, the idea is to start being able to improve the agent engagement, giving him a self-assessment tool, giving him some specific dashboards that are meaningful to them. As you do that, it's very important that you can provide some example, being able to point us to some specific interaction and being able to explain to the agent, you see, your score went down because at that time of the interaction, this is what happened. This is basically what you said, and you see that it did impact the sentiment this way. So from there, you can start driving some better coaching and over time start organizing a best practice library in order to be more successfully in your interaction. So I'd like to illustrate that through some kind of a mini demo if you want, and so that you can picture how it would work. So let's say that I am, driving my company and I have, among my different dashboards, one of them is really focusing on customer sat. I can see my sentiment, my NPS performance. Handle time is also something that I'm tracking. Here I see that my, negative sentiment has increased 2.5%. I don't like that. Very quickly I can see the breakdown by site. And I see that Cambridge is indeed showing very disturbing increase. So I need to drill into this. And this also topical analysis will illustrate very quickly the topic that are being mainly brought forward by the customer, and with indication of whether that topic is also bringing some positive or negative sentiment. But back to my Cambridge site, I have to dig into this. So as I drill into the Cambridge site, now I can have a dashboard which basically says that for each supervisor, I have those rankings that help me understand, okay, what am I talking about? Okay, I see the sentiment, but I can start drilling down and see the different components of my sentiment. Here I see that, Lee has, a team, and you can see that on the right-hand side, that have some very disparate ranking. And I can see that some of them are really struggling. Interestingly enough, I can see also the evolution of those different, I would say, metrics over time. And I can see that some of them are really dropping. In this case, this is the build rapport, which is not good because I see that there's been a kind of a decrease recently. So from there, I can start drilling down to every single individual and then start pulling out the interaction, and in this case, the call. And as I, point to a specific call, I will see very specifically down, how the call went. And, I can retrieve those different markers, and the solution will help me understand at what time of the interaction things happen. In this case, I can see that, well, we have, obviously the curve is showing two different rapport, building rapport, and I can play the media right away to understand, okay, what was being said. And maybe this is something that I need to maybe take note because obviously that was very impactful and I need to translate that into best practice. But sometimes also, because when you talk about AI, you're talking about a business model, an algorithm, and we know that your algorithm needs to be maintained and retrained. So the thing is also that as you do that, potentially you're going to come up with a different conclusion, and you're going to say, well, after listening to this call, I realize that maybe our algorithm needs to, some refinement. So this, I can right away send a review and basically get, my administrator to start tuning them out. So all this process basically gives you a way to go very deep and be very meaningful in understanding what is driving sentiment. And again, using this as a driving metric to lead to some specific action. So why this is important? Well, we know that customer experience is more and more used as a differentiator for many companies, and they use sentiment very often as they introduce new products, new services in the market. They want to have very close loop and have feedback from the customer to understand what are they doing. I mean, Lotte, for instance, is doing that whenever they release a new product, a new snack. They want to see whether the customers are liking the flavor, and they're going to use sentiment as a driving metric. They can do that also to basically understand whether a given process could be perceived by customer as cumbersome and start using this to fix that process. So at the end of the day, this is just an illustration of how sentiment, which is very AI-driven, can really accelerate your time to insight and start really nailing down to the specific actions that are going to impact your customer experience. But at the same time, this is usually a very powerful, I would say, self-assessment tool for your agent to really, I would say, self-coach himself and, lead to ongoing rise and increase of your NPS and CSAT. So this is a first example. Now I'm going to turn over to Tiffany, and we're going to get into another, but this time a case study, and we're going to show how AI can be used completely differently for a different purpose. So Tiffany, over to you.
Thank you very much, Philippe, and hi everyone. I'm Sudipan Sutatnatia, Managing Partner from Advantage. What I'm going to be sharing to you today is a case from Thailand in telesale marketing business. So first of all, let me give you a brief background of what we do and how we come to work with Nexidia. So Advantage has been consulting in an area of customer experience, consumer research for many years. One of the challenges that we have is when we have to work with organizations such as businesses in telemarketing, the big problem is the voice file. Voice file is an unstructured data, and that prohibits us to really make a deep analysis with any voice file. And that's how we come to work with Nexidia, which is a great, a wonderful platform that allows us to make a great impact in a telesale businesses. Today, I'm going to walk you through a case of a client of mine. Basically, it's a infomercial telemarketing businesses. I'm hope you all have, similar businesses in all the countries that you are. So the business of my client is very simple. They produce a show, as you see as picture on the left. They produce a show that demonstrates the usage of the product, whatever product they want to sell, and they will show up a number, and this day may be a QR code, and then customer, along with the show, with the information that's running, will dial in, call in, or somehow get through the company as an inbound. And then on the other end of the call, there will be groups of agents, an army of them, trying to take in an order, as many as possible, because as you see, when the media is broadcasting, everything is kind of on a peak time, and then, a lot of calls would come in. See, the thing about this kind of business is you have to pay to get sale, meaning that if you are not airing your commercial, you won't get any sale. So all the sales are non-organic. And the biggest problem for the firm is always how can the firm improve the ROI of the business, which is essentially how to improve an ROI on the call. So let's take a little deeper look at what composes of an ROI within a call. See, the journey of the customer starts with they call in with the dedicated numbers, and then all of them hopefully call in with a purchase intention. And if our agents are able to close that sale, that's the first step of getting an ROI out of the media spend. See, if agents attempt to make another upsell or cross-sell, and they are able to success on that as well, then it's a double ROI on the call. So as you can see here, the biggest player here is an upsell or cross-sell, because the media, the client, the firm spend will maintain the same, but you can increase the sale by making another upsell or cross-sell. But the thing is, the company cannot really manipulate the upsell so much, because what the company know, they only know how many customers call, they only know how many sales they were able to close, and they kind of compared it with number of calls, and they were able to know what are the actual sales figure on the upsell or cross-sell. See, on the right side on your screen there, what company didn't know is how many customers are calling with an attempt to buy, how many of their staff will actually attempt to make an upsell. And this is the thing I want to focus. I want you to keep this in mind. An attempt to upsell. See, to upsell or not upsell is like a one attempt away, right? Even the ability to closing the sale will be the same. If you make more attempts, the sales going to increase. So what we do is that we know that all the answer on how to provide a company with a more systematic way to create an upsell or cross-sell attempt, they are all in the voice file. And all the answer to the question unknown to the company are actually all live within the voice file. And that's how we use Nexidia to bring all this insight in front of us. See, we start with the process of using all the inbound voice file and put it into Nexidia. Nexidia has this amazing capability to able to recognize a pronunciation, what we call a phonetic of the voice. And then my team will be able to mix and match this phonetic pattern and then create what we call a sound marker on anything we want to do. See, to find out and improve about the upsell or cross-sell attempt, what my team do is that we use Nexidia to looking for whether or not did the call has an upsell attempt happen at all. And what was the product that being upsell? And what were the scripts that being said for the upsell and whether or not the upsell was success. So we use Nexidia to create this kind of 4 sound marker. Combine the sound marker with other system data like agent name, agent group, what are the initial product that they call, and what's the call duration, what's the basket size. We are able to produce a lot of business action. Like we are able to classify agent into, people who upsell a lot, people who not upsell at all, people who randomly upsell, people who good at attempt, people who good at attempt but have a really bad closing rate. So we are able to classify all the agents. We know which product should be offered in according to whatever first product they call in, and what would be the effective upsell and cross-sell script that will lead to more likelihood of closing the upsell. And definitely, we are able to do a QC based on this upsell and cross-sell attempt. Another most wonderful thing about Nexidia is that, my company, we came from marketing research background. We used to work with sample. We try to use sample, analyze sample, and then use sample in hope that it will represent the population. But with Nexidia, it's no longer a sampling process. Everything is on 100% population basis. So whatever we do, whatever we want to reinforce, we actually do it on 100% of agents and on all the calls. The result, almost double our performance in 11 days. Yes, 11 days. So as you can see on the chart that I show you here, the green line represents the closing rate, meaning that how many percent of the call we are able to close the sale. See, at the point of what we did this, we didn't even touch the script on closing the sale. We just simply focus on one thing. Did the agent attempt to make a cross-sell? As you can see on the chart there, between May and June, that's where our action took place. Using Nexidia, we are able to identify who is attempt to upselling, who is not attempt to upselling, and then we provide them a daily report. See, sometimes when agents were trying to, pick up so many calls, right? Because remember, come back to what I was saying earlier, when the media is air, it's like a rain pouring down. Right? So agents sometimes they get too excited and try to taking the next call too soon. We have an army of agents. But agents, if they try to hurry to, taking this order and then, put the call down and then pick up the next call too soon, they forget to upsell. This report kind of reminded them how many of the upsell opportunity they actually missed. And we took just 11 days working with them. We are able to bring the upsell rate from, less than 50% to above 70%. Which I checked the number in February. The numbers, the upsell attempt is around 77% to 80%. And that alone increase the company revenue of upsell monthly by 30%. This is using the Nexidia, focusing on just one thing. And come back to the ROI story that I was telling earlier. See, now my clients spend the same amount of media. They did everything the same. The volume of inbound call is all the same. But right now, my client has more revenue per call because in one call, they didn't sell just one product anymore. They are able to sell more than one product. And that immediately leads to better ROI. And with Nexidia in-house, it's not just increasing in the upsell and cross-sell revenue that my client is now benefit. My client is enjoying with this new capability of, they now know how to improve the sale conversion. Because when we are able to create a style marker for finding whether or not upsell or cross-sell attempt occur, we also are able to find out what were the agenda of the sales script, kind of key selling point were being said in each of the calls. And we kind of cross-tap that, cross-analysis that with whether or not the sale is success or fail. We are able to identify what is the most distinguished sales script that will lead to more sales. We also understand why the product won't sell. What are the customer rebuttants? What were the concerns of the customer in each of the products? We understand the production team, the TV production team now have a better insight of how to make a better show. The company are able to QC on 100% of the call, and the company is able to coach the agent at a much deeper level now, because now we have information on each of the agents on all the calls. So all this performance is being tracked all the time on 100% of the call. So that is the new life of my customer. And that is a story of the telemarketing from Thailand that I want to share with you. And thank you so much, Philippe, for giving me this opportunity. So let me pass it back to you, Philippe.
Thank you, Sudip. And I think that this is a very good illustration of how those new set of capabilities can make a difference. So, you've seen, again, I was using sentiment first. This second example is AI is being used in the speech analytics itself, but also in this auto-categorization. So that's maybe something that I want to leave you with before we open for questions. The first thing is that, again, we are in a world where customer experience is driving so many things. And it's in everybody's CEO's mind to say, I need to use customer experience as a differentiator. We know that there is commoditization of services and products. And, as a consumer in this new digital world, there is a high toll for mistake and high toll for bad customer experience. In order to improve this, you have no choice but to really, dig into those interactions and really start unlocking insights from your customer interaction. So this is where those technology like speech and text analytics can really help you a long way. And we've illustrated that today with two examples. There are so many more. And, I can think about, in this very first time we are going through, another example I want to leave you with that we are also helping some organizations these days, tapping into all the calls they are receiving from their, in this case, the citizens. There's a concern about the COVID-19, and some of our customers are using speech analytics to really get those insights, understanding the different categories of call in order to either tune their communication or drive action. So this is something that, you can think about that from different perspectives. Today it was more about increasing business, but quite frankly, there are sometimes reasons to do that just because the customers to be anxious, concerned, and are telling you something that you need to take into account. AI is really makes it even more powerful, because as we go through that process, as I said, we kind of, in the past, people were listening to the call and trying to come up with some conclusion. And obviously, that is not scalable. We are still doing that. I mean, many customers are using in their quality management process the concept of sample, and they would be, listening to 2% of their interaction, and they're going to try to make some conclusion out of that. This is not scalable, and quite frankly, this is not very efficient. Being able to really listen to 100% of your call, applying analytics and AI to all of them will definitely be the only way to really get all those insights you're looking for. And the last thing, I guess, also I want to emphasize is that getting insight out of this call is definitely the first step, but not the last one. And usually you need to take action from that. In the example that Philippe shared, he was able to translate those insights into some prescriptive action toward the agent. So, and this is what many of our customers are doing. When you start basically through an integrated platform, straight away, seamlessly take the insight and turn this into a coaching prescription to your agent. When the agent has a way also to start having an unbiased way of assessing their interaction and see, their score and, take conclusion from that. So that's 3 takeaways I want to leave you with. And I guess now I'm going to be handing back over to Seth to understand whether there are any questions. We'd be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Philippe. We really appreciate the session. Sutipan, of course, thank you for participating. Here's a couple of questions. Is this solution on real-time prompting to the agent while they are on the call, or is it offline activity of analysis?
So those 2 examples we've illustrated this morning are usually post-call analysis. It's true that we start having more and more some combination of those kind of technologies, speech analytics, with some RPA also. I mean, RPA is a concept where you have this kind of virtual assistant that will pop up and be able to start prescribe to your agent some recommendations. And that kind of virtual agent can be triggered many ways. It can be triggered because you can pull a metadata that's going to say, oh, careful, you're talking to a VIP customer, and that VIP customer has placed a recent order. So make sure that you're going to be pushing this special promotion we are pushing for this customer segment. Or maybe as the customer is maybe going through his on his desktop to different applications because he's instructed by the customer to do something or to do for information, we can use this also as a trigger. And we have a concept of, desktop analytics where we're going to be able to see exactly what the agent is doing and trigger something from that. So this is typically the kind of, I would say, new use case we're doing. I would say that as a first step, there are so many improvements you can already make by having this kind of a post-call analysis as illustrated today.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Here's the next, starts with a comment, ends with a question. This is a very good tool. Does it identify different languages, especially with all different accents and slangs? I've read it as question.
Yeah, so you're very right. I think that obviously we're talking about NLP here. So NLP is by design language specific. So while that solution supports 6 languages, but what is very unique about Nexidia is that usually you have 2 two kind of engine, or the main engine that you see on the market is the concept of what we call ASR, which is a transcript. Think about that as, okay, you're going to load a dictionary into your solution, and your solution will apply this concept of machine learning to start, doing some speech to text and applying the dictionary to identify the meaning of the interaction. That's one. Of course, we have that. But what is unique about Nexpedia is that it does bring also what we call a phonetic engine. And the phonetic engine is the concept where you are indexing all the phonemes. And the reason I'm saying that is the question refers to, okay, there could be slangs, or there could be, I would say sometimes, what about when the customer is using a brand name, which is very recent and obviously not loaded into the dictionary? So the ability to start switching back to a phoneme approach helps you retrieve those kind of, any kind of words, because every word can always be translated into a phoneme. So this is why the combination of those two engines helps you get a very high, ability to transcript and get the meaning of those interactions.
Can I add up to what Philippe was saying? Like Thai language is also a language with several dialects, and I think the question was about like with a slang. Right? So first of all, Nexpedia is using what is called a phonetic analytic capability. It's not a dictionary like Philippe mentioned. And based on the experience that we're working with Thai language, Nexpedia doing fine with Southern dialect, with Northern dialect, with Northeastern dialect. These dialects, in many cases, they have unique vocab. I mean, they say same thing with a central dialect, but they say it differently. So as long as the people who operate Nexpedia understand those meanings, it will be okay. So I think that's add up to like what Philippe was saying. And I think Nexpedia works as a per language pack. So if it's a Thai language pack, it will come with ability to understand different dialects of Thai.
Perfect. Thank you so much. A couple more questions here. Do you provide standard phone scripts based on the insight?
So, no, the short answer is no, we don't come up with a library of phone scripts because there are so many different use cases, so many different situations. However, the solution provides, as I said, through a combination of workflows and evaluation for some, you are able to build into the solution some prescriptive scripting data. So in the case, I think that maybe I'll go back to Sutipan because this is where, companies like Advantage coming with a strong functional background make a difference, is that sometimes they are able to start connecting the dots and taking the insight and translating this into the right recommendation. So Sutipan, maybe do you want to talk to this and how you came up with those?
I mean, providing the standard phone script or what we call it a golden phone script that would increase the sale probability, that's what we do exactly. So how we do that, we're using Nexpedia to provide company with, improved version of what the agent should be saying to each type of the call to improve the result. And that is usually one of the end deliverable that we were supposed to do when we're providing service to customers.
Great. Okay. We're making our way here. So this is a question, I think, to clarify one of the earlier answers. Regarding the sentiment analysis that's done online while the agent is on the call, is that how it's done, or is it more reactive where you analyze the calls later and drive a plan of action?
Okay, no, it's good that we clarify that. So, no, yeah, the sentiment is applied on a real time. And actually, you can think about a situation when, as a supervisor, you have a dashboard which is real time, and you can show the sentiment on your calls, or maybe a cluster of calls which is a team or a department, fluctuate on a real time. So no, that's very important to understand that. I was more referring to some of the combination of broader insights we can get out of an interaction. When throughout the interaction, you're going to start picking some topics, some words, some maybe behavior that overall will drive some more analytics, if you want, and drive some more insight and some more action. But when it comes to sentiment, this is something that indeed is applied on the real time.
Excellent. All right, a few more questions. We'll try to get to them. We only have 5 minutes left in the hour. What other use cases are you experiencing using this kind of solution?
Good question. So the main use cases, I would say, even though it's kind of limitless, but first I would say usually you have, and I'm going to think about that as very usually kind of a journey. So cost effectiveness. Cost effectiveness is one of them. So you want your agent to be productive. You want your interaction to be efficient. You have a high level of first call resolution. You want to minimize handle time. So those solutions usually can have that, and that's going to drive performance of your agents, performance of your call center, your customer service. That's one. Two, you're going to have everything about compliance. Compliance, think about that in terms of regulation. If you are in a regulated industry, making sure that, for instance, in your interactions, you are including the maybe mandatory sentence or warnings or advice to the customer, or not being too bullish about selling something, or could be compliance with respect to some adherence to a script. So that's a big one also we see. Churn is another one. You want to start leveraging those interactions to start identifying churn, whether you are a telco, bank, you want to have early signal to a customer that has a propensity to churn. Obviously, we've talked about customer satisfaction overall. This is also something that is being driven by many organizations, tracking NPS and CSAT. And the last one is the one we've been talking about today, but I would say, this is the one coming usually with a very, the biggest ROI, which is sales effectiveness. Because many organizations are trying to leverage those interactions to, be better at pushing their services, pushing their products. It could be in the context of cross-sale, or it could be in the context of saying that, all right, let's make sure that my agent is driving my profitability by pushing the right products and not with the right margin. So I would say those 5 are some big families that we have a tendency to see over and over. Sutipan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so when it comes to use case, for me is like either making more sales, reducing costs. So it usually comes down to those 2 aspects. So the use case for increased sale is usually improve sale effectiveness, improve closing rate, improve upsell, cross-sell. The reducing cost would be how to serve customer better in shorter time, or maybe introduce a company to a new way of service using non-voice based on, how many voice that's being, inbound to create all this cost to the company. So when it comes down to me, it's usually either to reduce cost or more sale. That's usually the general use case that we deal with.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. This takes us right up to the time limit that we do have. So very much appreciate your time. For everyone attending, very much appreciate your time as well. We're going to make our way over to the next session that begins in about 15 minutes. That's Richard Davies at OutSystems and Richard Wilson at Think Money. So talking about how to accelerate the development of your multi-experience portfolio. So thank you again, Philippe and Sutipan. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks to the attendees, and we will see you in the next session.